pulse of the VI. Listen close and you will see why. The information will set you free. Stand together, never divide. Pulse VI.
Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock, so you know what time it is.
Pulse VI time, BVI in Virgin Islands.
90.9 FM, Caribbean Superstation. Welcome. This is your host, The Swain Show.
And BVI Chick.
Yes, and the BVI Chick. How are you doing today?
A bit tired, but, always excited to come here.
Likewise.
Always excited.
Likewise. I had such a rough day, but I am here, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. How was your week?
Rough. Ever since I got back, I've been working day in, night out.
Yeah.
So every day, every night. I probably go sleep at 12 and wake up at 5:36 and back on the road again.
Oh, God, I'm sorry for you, but that's the life of a working dad.
Yeah, I guess so.
What's happened this week in the BVI?
We had a lot happen this week.
Yes.
We had a lot of accidents. We had a lot of motorcycle accidents. We had a lot of people being injured. Of course, you had the baby that died in the car. It's so interesting, listeners. We talked about this in the Pulse VI chat, and we thought maybe it would have been too soon to mention it. But at the same time, coming from Pulse, we just wanted to send our hearts out to the parents.
Definitely.
Allison and Michael, and we know that according to the news, they're both
in the hospital.
In the hospital right now.
Yes, so we send our prayers.
So we do send our prayers to you guys. It hit me hard because not only is Michael my girlfriend's co-worker, but we actually lived together for a month after Irma when we went to the Cayman Islands. So I actually got to be around the baby for that, for that period of time.
Oh, wow.
And to see the mother was very overprotective of her baby. It was her first child.
Yes.
Everyone knows that she was in her late 30s, early 40s. I'm not sure. I don't want to just call her age. I'm not really sure. But it was her first child, and I know it completely broke both of their hearts.
I could only imagine. Yeah, I worked with Michael for probably 6 to 7 years, so it touched me really, really hard. So all I'm asking is that, the public be supportive. Both parents are grieving. They're both going to beat themselves up about what they should have done differently that morning.
Right.
They don't need us to add to that grief.
Right.
We should be more of a support system. And I ask that any clergy that's out there that haven't yet reached out to this couple, please do so, because they're going to need our love and support.
Yeah, they're going to, and I can't imagine what their families are going through, and the people at work that they work with, and it's kind of a domino effect when something like this happens, because it ripples all
Definitely.
through, not just their lives, but the people that that they're involved with.
Yeah.
So I just want to say again our condolences and our sympathies.
Yeah, just continued support from the public. Let's be there. Let's be our sisters and brothers keeper in this. Let's not be judgmental.
Absolutely.
We all don't know what was going on, so let's just try and be as supportive as could be. Yes, an innocent little baby lost her life, but still, we still have to be somewhat supportive for the parents.
Agreed.
Yes, and the family, because they're all hurting.
Yes.
What else has happened, Robbie?
You tell me.
Oh, my God.
Hot chick. BVI hot chick. Sorry. BVI chick. Jeez, why do I put hot chick in there?
You love
Sorry.
hot chicks. So I'm just going to speak it out into the universe. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to speak it and leave it there. We had the big vote this week, and that, too, has been quite emotional for a lot of persons.
Yeah.
Financial services is our number one economic pillar, and especially since Hurricane Irma and the fall of tourism,
correct,
we all has leaned more on the support of financial services. So the vote in the UK to impose public registers of the UBO on the overseas territory has been quite a conversation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, may not know the full story.
Right.
So coming from Pulse, we want to make sure that persons educate themselves.
Right.
Get to know what's going on. Don't just jump on no bandwagon.
Right.
But just educate yourself, because, the ripple effects could affect us all.
Yes.
So it's best that you have a clear understanding instead of just, jumping on a bandwagon.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be me, because I have no idea what really is going on. All I know is that some things are private. They want it public. people won't want it public, and that's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rise of this change came about more prominent when Barack Obama became president, because of course, a lot of onshore monies were being in offshore territories.
Right, correct.
And tax were being delayed.
Yeah.
So I think every country wants to be able to tax their money immediately. So they want things back onshore. And, they want to know who owns what where.
Absolutely.
So that it could be taxed properly.
Yeah.
So, it's like a parent and a child,
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some stuff that's going to come out of it, but, people just need to be aware, stay vigilant, be calm.
Yeah.
I mean, we've ridden out lots of storms.
True.
This is going to be another storm. We just have to, be aware.
Yeah. And like myself, I advise people to do a lot of research and really try to understand what this means and what is going to happen in the BVI and not to panic.
Right. That's
because I think that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And if you go on social media, you see everyone has something to say
Yeah.
about it, and most of the people don't even know what it is
Right,
or what it's
right.
about, but they're just feeding off of the panic.
Right. And I think, in the next coming weeks, I'm quite sure the government will put groups together that will, put more information out there for the public. Hopefully that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think my thing is that the public, this has been written on the wall that it's coming. I mean, they voted in January and it was not accepted. So, I mean, I think that we need to be more reactive in providing information beforehand, because persons are not panicking because they don't know.
Yeah.
So
True.
hopefully in the coming weeks, the various government agencies that are involved will bring more information to the public so that they could be more aware.
Yeah.
That's the key. Be more aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What else you got going on? I know the NBA is in playoff mode. Am I right?
Yeah, they are in playoff mode, and I'm not.
You're not?
I'm not. I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have time to watch the NBA.
Well,
Sorry.
Some people still don't have TV. You know what I mean?
This is true, but they got their phones and they can check the NBA
scores.
schedules. Yeah.
I know. I just
am
see
not
my
that
brother.
guy.
My brother is a big basketball fan. Shout out Maka. He's listening in Maryland. And basketball has been a part of his life. He was a player in high school and then in college. So he's a big basketball fan to this day. And I mean, let me tell you, every action that happens in the game, it's like I'm there. He posts everything.
Yeah.
And I call my mom and I could hear him in the background screaming. And my mom is like, yeah, your brother is watching basketball. It's like he takes over the whole house.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's serious. I mean, I don't even know who's in the playoffs right now. When Trav was on a couple weeks ago, he was up on the stats. I'm not. So.
Yeah, neither am I. LeBron is winning. I know that.
Oh, he is?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know my brother keeps typing "strive for greatness, LeBron." Strive for greatness, LeBron. So, I mean, you're saying it, so
Yeah.
I'm going to say, yeah, he's winning.
In other news, I looked on the internet the other day, this week actually, a lady in the United States walked into a Popeyes and ordered a Wendy's meal.
No, she didn't.
And she got into an uproar because she could not get her Wendy's meal.
Oh, wow, poor thing.
So she started to curse out the employees, everybody that was inside. She tried to break a window with one of the chairs. She tried to throw the chair through the window.
For Wendy's meal?
For a Wendy's meal in Popeyes.
Oh my God,
So,
that must be some good burger. I mean, I don't eat meat, and I haven't had a burger in, I would say, probably 20, 25 years. I haven't eaten meat, but my God, all of that for a burger.
Yeah, she wanted her meal. She wanted her meal.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So
I
did
saw
they
the
give her
story a
some
couple
chicken?
days. I think she got arrested.
For a
Yeah,
burger.
basically at the end of the video, she just gets arrested. But
Oh God. Poor
yeah, it's
thing, she
crazy
was
people like that
hungry.
keeps the world laughing, I guess.
I'm telling you, listen, people are under so much various stress right now
Right,
that,
correct.
crazy things happen.
Yep.
But my God, a Wendy's meal, that must be some good burger.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh. Anything else interesting happening? I don't know what's going on in, like entertainment world because Binter isn't here. We so miss
Yeah,
her because,
I know.
that's her thing. She keep
Right.
up with what's going on with the stars and their marriages and their children.
Yeah, I have
and
no idea. I
who
could
has
probably
a
just go in the
baby.
shade room right now and see
Oh,
what's
wow.
going on. But I really don't know. I have not been keeping up at all.
I really don't know. But, just so that the BVI know what's going on, we have Treffles. They're doing their 10th anniversary next weekend.
May 12th. Yes.
So, and then after that, the following weekend, we have Posh Girls coming up. So it's Girl Power 2 weekends in a row. I see other things happening in the territory. I think we're going to have the Jazz Festival again this year, maybe. So, I mean, it's a lot of things going on, which is good because, after Irma, there wasn't a lot to do.
Right.
And people were getting worried. People were getting empty nest, being stuck in their house, no TV, slow internet, nowhere to go. So things are starting to happen. So, get out and support. That's what we have to do. We have to be our own resilience here in terms of our building and maintaining. So go out and support what's going on. Kanye, oh God.
Do you think slavery was a choice?
Did the man say slavery was a choice?
Do you think slavery was a choice?
You know what? I mean, because I know that he's a little silly and I don't want to, over talk on him. But hopefully he meant something else. He tried to clean it up.
He tried. I didn't watch the whole thing.
I think he's just hurting from a whole lot of garbage in his life that he doesn't know where he fits in. He really doesn't, and he's constantly trying to find his place. That's how I see him.
I feel like he wanted to do it to spark the conversation because I don't know, all the years of Kanye West having these sporadic moments and situations, I do not think that it is in vain.
Well, you know what? We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, right? Where we think that persons put things out there because you have to stay relevant. And it's all part of staying relevant. Sometimes we do stupid things, though.
And he's working on, and it just so happens that he's working on 5 albums this year at the same time. So all of this for the publicity. Of course, you're going to get people to start listening to your music.
Of course.
But I really feel like there's always a hidden agenda with Kanye West, and he is not doing this in vain. And it's exactly for a reason. I feel like he wants us to have this conversation.
Of course.
He wants to spark people's interests. My idea of it is that, yes, when we were locked in bondage, when we were in shackles, it wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
We didn't have a choice back then.
Make that choice?
There was a gun put to your head, blah, blah, you'd be hanged.
You were chained.
You were chained. There's nothing you could do.
Right.
But as years go by, you have 100 people to 10.
Yeah.
Did you make that choice to say, let's sacrifice 20 people, let the 80 live, and kill the 10? That is given us.
I mean, it's kind of hard for me because, of course, we don't know the mindsets of back then. Times were different. You know what I mean? So to me, there's no comparison. Of course, I mean, but when you think about it, there are slaves somewhere in the world today still.
There are, and there are.
And that's because of evolving. The world is evolving, and exposure, and every place is not totally exposed.
Absolutely.
I mean, I hope there's none in the BVI, but we know even in America,
Atlanta, I don't.
There were people in someone's house being locked up as a slave. I mean, I think, I pray for him. That's all.
There was this one story, and I think I sent it in the Pulse VIA chat before we even started the April 7th show.
Oh, okay.
And it was a Vice documentary on these kids, these young kids going into into Georgia, in like the countryside of Georgia, and they were speaking to some folks, and these guys were like in their 80s, late 70s, early 90s, and he asked the guy a question, and the guy basically, his answer was he wasn't aware of the movement that people were trying to free themselves.
Wow.
That's how locked up he was. He had no idea that people were actually marching or fighting against anything
because he wasn't
exposed at all.
Right.
And he loved his massa and he loved being around.
That's the life he knew.
And that's because that's the only thing that he knew. So it's just, I said all that to say we just had I felt like there was a mindset. You grew up as an animal, you're trained as an animal. Know that we're evolving. We're supposed to know the difference between, slavery, bondage, and signing a contract for your life. But anyway, thank you, Kanye.
Hot topics.
I guess those are your hot topics. We do have Mr. Matthews, the commissioner of
I'm excited.
Police.
I'm excited, and he looks excited.
And he's all chipper and ready. He had his tea already.
Ready for you guys.
So this is Pulse VI, Caribbean Superstation 90.9 FM. This is your host, The Swain Show.
And BVI Chick.
And the BVI Chick. And we will be right back.
Pulse VI.
Welcome back to Pulse VI. You're here with the Commissioner, Michael Matthews, Royal Virgin Islands Police Force.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. What a fabulous show this is.
Thank you. We're so excited. We're so excited. Tell us what's new. What's going on in the police force right now as we speak in terms of, since you've been here, your transformation, the work you're doing with the officers. Give us a little bit.
Okay. Well, first of all, I've got to say that nothing prepared the police force for what happened here last September.
Oh, wow.
Nothing prepared me for that either. I should have read my contract, the small print. It didn't say anything about hurricanes, floods and things like that. We've had to get back up on our feet just like everybody else has. And, to be frank with you, we're still doing that.
Okay.
We're not back up on our feet 100% yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I think what that does is that reflects progress in the territory, that everybody is slowly trying to stand up and restore, some level of normality. And the police service is no different. But what we have been doing is investing as quickly as we can to ensure that, your words, Claudia, ensure that we transform from where we were to where we now need to be. Because I don't want to reinvent the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force so that we can have exactly the same as what we had before.
Right.
Everything that's happened in this territory.
Absolutely.
And the first part of this show where you described, what was happening in the BVI, just in the last week alone, it tells me everything about what we need to be preparing for the future as a community, as a territory, as a people. And therefore the police force has to reflect that. So we're working towards, a better response for the public, better protection for the public, better training for the officers, better equipment. It's that kind of level that we're operating at the moment.
Okay, sounds good. I know that recently you were awarded some money.
Yes, we were.
Right. Do you have a precise plan on how to spend that money? Is that something that you could share with the public, how it will be spent? What can you give us?
Well, first of all, I'm going to head for a Wendy's burger because they sound amazing, don't they?
Don't it?
We were initially given some funding from the UK, about 1.2 million pounds. So it was about $1.5 million, something like that. Mm-hmm. And what we've done with that is we've effected the immediate repairs needed in some of our police stations because some of our infrastructure took a really bad hit, like a lot of people's homes and businesses here.
Right.
We've replaced some of our vehicles that were severely damaged during the storms, but a lot of the money has been spent on retraining and re-equipping officers for the impact of the change in society that is evident. And I don't just mean necessarily BVI society, but I'm talking in the wider Caribbean and how that is impacting here. Nobody's going to be surprised when I mention gun crime. Nobody's going to be surprised when I talk about the shootings that we've had here in the territory last year and this year. And I think it's a sad reflection of what's happening in a society at the moment. But to combat that, to make this territory as safe as we possibly can, we have to rethink our strategy. And that's involved investing some of that money in retraining officers to a much higher standard and re-equipping them so that basically our firearms response is more dynamic. It's going to be quicker. It's larger than it's been before. We've got greater capacity, but also other officers recognising the skill sets that they need for our communities and developing those skill sets to make sure people do feel safe in their homes.
Good. I remember shortly after Hurricane Irma, you came to one of the joint meetings that were being held on the BVI finance side, and you mentioned that you have a quota of the number of officers you would like to have in the territory at all times.
Yeah.
Are you at that quota?
Yes, we've actually started recruiting again, and some good news is that the government have been switched on to the needs here. They've given me the permission to increase the standard number of officers. So I normally would have 230 regular officers and about 23 auxiliaries. And on top of that, I'm well and truly ably supported by about 30 plus police staff. So we're a reasonable sized organisation already, but the actual regular sort of highly trained officers are what we need more of, because we are spread out across a range of specialisms and across a number of islands, of course.
Okay.
So we are increasing the size of the force by about 15 regular officers this year, and we hope to do that again next year and the year after, so that eventually the regular force will increase from around 230 to around about 275.
Okay. Wow.
And then with our auxiliary force on top of that, we'll round off with uniform presence of around 300 officers.
Okay.
When you talk about those numbers, it kind of opens my eyes up a little bit, because I don't know, I guess I've never really felt that that presence of that amount of police. I never knew that it was those numbers. It was that high. That's very interesting.
But I think you have it spread across 4 islands, 4 major islands, right?
Right. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and Michael, you make a really interesting point, because one of the most common complaints, if you like, that I receive is people say, you're not visible enough as a police force. What was interesting last year was we bought a new fleet of vehicles. Sadly, Irma decided to do some harm to that. But
they were Irmaized.
They were Irmaized, yes. They weren't truly Irmaized. But we brought in a new fleet. We brought 6 vehicles, highly visible, marked up police vehicles, with white vehicles with blue and yellow Battenberg markings on them.
Right.
They became very noticeable very quickly. And what was interesting, I hadn't recruited any new officers at that point, but the public was saying, "Oh, it's great to see the police about."
Okay.
And it is about how you make yourself more visible, because the officers are there.
Yeah.
They're just not always seen. And so the art is, of course, to not only make sure that we spread ourselves across all of the islands, but of course, I mentioned earlier, it's also about the specialisms. A good number of that force aren't necessarily visible on the street, because they might be plainclothes detectives.
Okay.
They may be fraud investigators.
Yeah.
They may be working in the family and juvenile unit. They're not always the people physically on patrol, but they make up those numbers of the total force.
Okay. My question right now is about training. You mentioned training and recruiting. In terms of your recruiting, do you feel that you get the best of what you need for your support? You get persons that are eager for this job, that, recruiting someone that just said they want to be a police officer and someone that feels it in their spirit, them receiving the training and being efficient could be different. Do you feel that you're getting the best?
You really touched on a very, very important point, because, being a police officer, and I've been one for 36 years, so I can talk with some degree of confidence on the subject now, it is a way of life. It's not something you dip into and dip out of. You're either committed to public safety and the service of others, or you're not. We get literally inundated with applications to join the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. We get it from 2 main sources. We get a lot of young people, which I'm delighted about, locally, who express an interest. And we also get a lot of people who want to transfer from other Caribbean countries. Now, I have to strike a balance. And I declared last year, when I was responsible for overseeing our first recruitment for some time, and we took in 27 new recruits last year. Brand spanking new, off the street, not been trained before. But around about 50% of them are BV Islanders. And that, to me, was a real success story, because, your police force, your local police force, should reflect the local territory. Now, of course, we live in a multicultural, multifaceted society here in the Virgin Islands, and I think that's what makes the place great, personally. So I've got to strike that balance and try and make sure the force reflects the society we're policing. The challenge is that people come forward, they want to join, but they haven't really thought through what policing is about and the challenge of the role.
And what it takes.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
And it's probably a 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
You're never off duty.
24/7. I'm certainly never off duty. You wouldn't believe the hour my phone rings. I've no idea how the public have got my mobile phone number, but it rings at all sorts of hours.
Welcome to the BVI.
Yeah, that's right. It's great, though, because,
we like to be able to touch everyone.
I think the Commissioner of Police should be available, though, to speak to people at that level. But I think the key thing is that even young police officers that join today, they're doing a far more challenging job than I had to do when I joined in 1982 back in the UK. And so it does take a special sort of person. And so sadly, we do get inundated, but we also do have to turn down a lot of applications because once people start to understand, or once they declare, their experience of life, you can look sometimes and think you're going to struggle, and we don't want to waste, the limited funds we have on trying to train somebody who may never ever make it.
Right, that's true. So I'm going to segue into, you said you had 27 new recruits last year. Are they all still on the force?
They are.
So you had 100%.
They are. They're all still with us at the moment. Touch wood.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I guess that's a testament to your process and your vetting process to make sure that you get persons that are going to be committed.
Exactly. And we sat those new recruits in a classroom for 6 months, solid, teaching them. In fact, they didn't quite finish their training because, again, Irma interrupted that. Some of the first police officers that were on the street after the hurricane died down were brand new recruits because they were housed in Road Town Police Station at the time, and I took a risk and I turned them out because I felt the public needed to see police officers on the street quickly.
Okay, that was important.
We did. Regardless of their training, we did need to see uniforms on the street. Because at that time, people were in a panic. There were so many things going on.
A lot
Not only that, there were a lot of rumors. So the rumors is what made people just panic.
Right.
Share panic.
Right.
So I was certainly happy to see the uniforms on, right after. Yeah. So I commend the police force for that.
Yeah, and having the territory security under your portfolio, I'm quite sure that, you were probably nowhere near rest right after Irma. You were just constantly on the go because you had a charge to make sure that the territory is secure and persons felt secure. And that's something that when we get back from the next break, I want you to talk a little bit about more.
For sure.
Like explain to the public the magnitude of territory security and what it means in terms of making sure that the wider public feels secure in the territory.
Absolutely. This is Pulse VI. You're here with the Swain Show and BVI Chick, and we'll be right back.
Pulse VI.
Welcome back to Pulse VI. You're here with the Commissioner, Michael Matthews, Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. How are you doing today again?
Very good, thank you. I'm thoroughly enjoing this chat.
Nice.
Awesome.
Welcome back to the show. You mentioned something in the last segment. You said it takes a special type of person to become a police officer. And when you said that, it triggered to tell you a story about the police officers when they're interacting with the citizens. And I'm not sure what is being done within the training, but I feel as if they still need to be working on the way that they interact with the public, the way that they ask questions, the way that they make statements, because a lot of the times, and I've seen it myself and I've been through it, and a lot of the times they come off very rude. It's almost as if they're anticipating that you're going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
So they try to get the upper hand on you. And I feel like that causes so much more of a bad reaction than it needs to be. And it's just something that I wish there will be a lot
Is
better
that
on.
something that you find common probably in other regions? Because that's something that, probably happens a lot in the U.S.
Right.
Especially with all the police shootings, because they come with a preconceived notion of how this pullover or whatever is going to go. So can you probably, as Robbie said, tell us a little bit about the mindset of the police officers?
I think you made a really good point there, about the apprehension about what they might actually be dealing with and what might actually happen. But our training has to focus on providing a service to the public. If I had my way, I'd change the name of the organisation. I'd change it from the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force to the Royal Virgin Islands Police Service, because the word force immediately brings to mind that you're going to use some kind of level of force against your public.
Correct.
And force should be the last thing on your mind when you're interacting with the public. I recognise that we don't always get it right, but I also recognise that it's very easy for us to just sweep the brush across the whole of the organisation and say everyone's like this.
Yeah.
Some of my officers don't always get it right. Some of my officers do a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
And that's not me saying it. I get letters from the public telling me, just how well they perform. Now, classic example, and you touched on it, and I do want to just mention it, the sad loss of baby Zaria this week, 11-month-old. And like yourselves, my heart goes out to the family. It's a dreadful situation.
Yeah,
but the
indeed.
feedback that I've had from the people involved in that incident was just how well the officers performed their duties in what was clearly very, very difficult situation for everybody involved. So, I'm pleased when I hear that feedback. I'm pleased they're acting professionally and they're doing their job, but we don't always get it right. And I have to be realistic. In a force the size I have got some officers who will hide behind the uniform and think that the only way to control the situation is to be aggressive.
Yeah.
And they are the ones we've got to identify, and we've got to train further or retrain to make people understand that actually, you've got the power of the law behind you.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't need the aggression.
Yeah.
And if somebody is aggressive towards you or is going to attack you, we train you to defend yourself.
Right.
They go through training to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes, the training does involve about using communication, and that can be raising your voice or shouting.
Right.
But that's sort of like escalating when a situation is starting to get out of hand.
Right.
And the baby Z situation, I did hear some people saying that the police handled it well, and then I get a story from people that worked in the building, and there was this one police officer who walked up to a group of ladies who were on the scene, and they were actually the co-workers of Michael, and he basically just walked straight up to them and said, I know this is probably going to affect you guys because you're probably mothers. So it's just like, it was kind of an insensitive thing to say at the time. So their response was, no, we're his co-workers.
Right.
And then he said, well, I'm just here going to take some pictures. So it's just the way that you deal with things. Some people do it good, and some people still need a little bit more training. So I feel like people need to be trained on sensitivity, if I must, for lack of a better word, just the way that they interact with people right after or during a crime scene.
I'm quite sure that that's something that they would have to keep in mind, because your training, is it ongoing? Like,
we do.
Do you have standard set trainings that you have to do 3 each year, or how is it?
I'd love to say that we were funded well enough to be able to sort of say that every officer gets sort of refresher training every year. We don't. And I recognise that funding going forward is going to be very, very tight. But that again goes back to the point of when we are given money, we have to identify where to inject that cash that's going to give us the best return. And the points you're making are not lost on me at all. Delivering a better service, a higher standard of service, making sure people feel that when they come to the police, they're not made to feel guilty themselves, that actually, they're reporting a crime or they need their assistance, and the officers actually respond in the right way. As I say, we're on a journey.
Yeah.
Wow. And I know that the last set of officers were trained locally.
Yes, they were, yeah.
Compared to the local training, and I don't know if you had any officers that were trained away since you've been in the post. Are you able to notice a difference in terms of their level of adaptability, how they deal with the public, their level of concern and being sensitive? Do you notice any differences in that training?
It's always difficult to make a comparison. In previous years, officers have been sent overseas to be trained as new recruits, and we may well look at doing that again in the future. Although that is a more expensive way for the territory to train officers. If you train in house, you can make a lot of savings. But I would argue that perhaps we don't have everything we need to train fully in-house, and there are certain things that are going to still need to be a top-up as we go forward. And in fact, we've just taken all of our new recruits back in for some update training, so that kind of gives you an indication that we recognise there is still work to do.
Be done.
Okay, that's good point. Back on the security of the territory, give us a little bit more so the public could understand. When you say your responsibility is security of the territory, what does that encompass?
Well, first of all, I'm responsible for making sure that the laws of the territory are enforced. Not everybody likes the laws of the territory being enforced, and sometimes, people push back very hard. But, I always make the point that, the police service here, we don't actually write the laws. We don't put them on the statute books. Our job is to enforce them. That said, it becomes very difficult to enforce the laws of the territory when you have a major event such as what we suffered here in September. September with Irma and Maria, because the territory got exposed.
Right.
It got exposed. Our borders were wide open. We lost our capabilities to monitor people through CCTV, you know, through coming in at the airport, through coming in at the seaports, and a lot of the IT systems are down and failed. So we're rebuilding, and we've got to rebuild better. But that's all about security of the territory as well. Now, of course, within that, there are a lot of other agencies involved, you know, customs, immigration, the Ports Authority, the Airports Authority. So we all work together, and what we have done since Irma is we've developed a territory security plan, which is aimed at each of the organisations getting together so that we are not only making sure we get value for money in terms of expenditure, but actually that we're all working in harmony to make sure we're making the best use and keeping security at the top of the agenda. Now, the Governor himself has been chairing some of those meetings. That's how seriously he takes security of the territory, and, you know, I'm delighted to get that level of support behind it. But it would be fair to say, and most people experienced it, in the immediate aftermath of the hurricanes, people felt unsafe, people felt insecure.
Right.
There was looting.
A lot.
Yes.
And we had to bring in external officers, and we had to bring in the military. But, you know, the quicker we were able to send those extra resources back home and say we're able to manage this ourselves, the better. Because all the time, and every now and again I hear somebody say, you know, bring back the British police or bring back the military, you know, and the headline that I always raise an eyebrow to, and this springs out of online media all the time, the headline says, crime is spiralling out of control.
Yeah.
Well, crime is not spiralling out of control in this territory.
Right.
Listen, last year, 2017, we recorded 1,200 odd crimes in this territory, 1,200 crimes. Now, all right, that's a population of around 30-odd thousand spread out across lots of islands.
Right.
But let's remember, some of those crimes are things like a broken wing mirror on a car. Someone threw a rock at a window.
Yeah.
Some of them will be, you know, somebody left their mobile phone on a table and someone stole the mobile phone. What, of course, catches people's attention is when you have something very, very serious happen. And I absolutely understand that, because that's the thing that makes people feel unsafe.
Right.
So when we talk about security of the territory, I've been putting a lot of effort and focus into dealing with the more serious end of the business, the violent crimes, the shootings, the illegal firearms, because it's those areas that are going to make a difference to people's lives dramatically. And if we don't grip them, if we let them spiral out of control like they have done in other Caribbean countries, then this territory won't be a safe place anymore.
Right.
But let me be clear on this point. Crime is not spiralling out of control. Last year, we captured nearly 50% of the people who committed crimes and dealt with them through the criminal justice system here. And our target, again, is to head for something like that this year. That's not easy.
Right.
And I have to say, I don't always enjoy the support of the public. There is a culture within the BVI that says we don't grasp, we don't come forward, we don't give witness statements. Some of that's changing. People are recognising that communities have got to stand up for what's right.
Good.
And if communities are prepared to stand up and work hand in hand with the police service, the territory will remain safe for the future, it will remain secure for the future, and the quality of people's lives will go through the roof.
Yeah, if we don't say anything, nothing can be done. And, you know, you always hear people saying, whether they will stop trying to look for seatbelts instead of and go solve a crime. But at the same time, we have levels in the force, and we need traffic cops.
Oh, God.
And we need investigators.
Definitely.
So, you know, people always say, you know, why do the police are always pulling us over and doing this and doing that and go and solve this murder? But they have to understand that there are police for that.
Right.
And, you know, we need to have those traffic cops. We need to have the police presence, and we need to have those other police solving crimes and doing what they need to do. And if we don't talk, because we do, we talk amongst WhatsApp.
We talk on.
I know exactly what's happening in the BVI 5 minutes later.
We know who do it.
There's always like, there's a list of people.
I tell you, they give you all the details as to who the criminal is.
Yeah, or who it might be. And if you know, why don't you go say something then?
Right. And I mean, I know you said that more of that is happening, and hopefully it will continue to happen. But do you what do you think would be the one thing that's hindering persons from coming forward in such a small society?
It's trust. It's trust.
Okay.
I mean, look, we are very, very fortunate that the true facts are that crime is going down in the territory in general terms. So, you know, your general offending rate is going down, and it's going down quite considerably at the moment. But of course, that doesn't make people feel better when something serious happens. If there's a shooting, if a young man dies on our streets, people immediately will react to that and say it's not safe. But people know what's happening out there. The one that always breaks my heart every time I look back and I think of Trinity Moses last year, when she was killed in the car with Franklin Penn Jr. in the West End. I can tell you that, you know, we've now got government to put up a $100,000 reward in respect to that case for anyone who can come forward with information that will lead to the arrest and conviction of the killer or killers. Do you know the saddest thing about that is we are getting absolutely zero from the community about that killing.
Wow.
And I find that so sad.
That's heartbreaking.
Now, even though it may be a trust issue, you know, there are ways to get information to the police service without having to talk to the cops themselves.
Right.
You know, you can talk to the local pastors, you can talk to politicians, you can talk to community leaders. You can stick an anonymous note under my door. It doesn't matter how we get the information. But I just find that is a tragedy that sits at the heart of our society here in the BVI, and it's got to change. And we've got to stop using trust as the excuse. I may never get the public to fully trust the police service, and there may be good reasons for that. They may have had bad experience with officers, but that shouldn't be an excuse for allowing children and young men on our streets to be slaughtered.
Agreed.
I totally agree.
Agreed.
And with that said, we're going to have to take another break. We are here with the Commissioner of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Service.
The time is going
not the
so
police
quickly.
force anymore. Police service, not force anymore. That's something I think I'm going to sign on
We're
to.
going to speak it into existence.
We're going to speak it into existence.
Awesome.
We'll be right back. This is the Caribbean Superstation, 90.9 FM. You're here with Pulse VI.
Pulse VI.
Pulse VI. Welcome back. Caribbean Superstation, 90.9 FM. You're here with the Commissioner, Michael Matthews of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Service, and the Swain Show, and the BVI Chick, and Blake.
Hey, we're here.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up. This is the last 10 minutes of the show.
I wish I could sound as cool as you on the radio.
Isn't it cool?
Years of experience. Well, the last thing we got to talk, well, not last, but one of the things we have to talk about, people actually messaged me, they inboxed me because they knew you were coming on the show. And one of the things they wanted to know is, what are we going to do about hindering the traffic while giving tickets out to citizens?
I've had a couple of letters to complain about this myself, to be fair. I'm going to tell you a little tale here. First of all, the basic police power is if you're driving a vehicle on a road, you can be stopped by a police officer in uniform. So the fact that an officer, you know, should think sensibly about where they're going to do that stop is one issue. However, there has been a deliberate tactic employed here, and nobody's asked me this, so you're the first to get this. But you will know, as young people living in this territory, and anyone listening will know, that one of the biggest problems that gets raised time and time again is about scooter riders and illegal vehicles and vehicles that haven't been insured, haven't got proper windscreens and things like that. And what's been happening is by slowing the traffic, a time when scooter riders are trying to zigzag their way through, actually has enabled officers to stop and capture some of those offenders. And the interesting thing is I watched a recent event because it was right outside the Right Way supermarket in Road Town, and I was in the car park there, and I saw the officers operating, and I could see the tailback, and I could see some people getting grumpy. But, you know, during that stop, they actually dealt with a whole number of illegal vehicles, no insurances, no driving licenses, stolen scooters, because they can't go anywhere either because the whole traffic stopped. So, you know, it's debatable. Should we inconvenience the wider public to be able to target offenders? But, you know, it was effective. my commitment is to say we're not going to do it like that every day of the week, because otherwise we just grind Road Town to a halt. And I accept and apologise to people if they find themselves inconvenienced. But the officers aren't doing it just to be awkward. They're doing it for a purpose, to try and make the roads safer. And the more people we remove from the roads who aren't insured, for example, or don't have a driving licence, have never learned to drive a vehicle properly, the safer those roads are going to be. You can challenge the methods, sure, but at the moment we've been catching a lot of people just recently, and some of my officers have a long list of caseloads going to the courts now as a result of some of those tactics.
Wow.
It's interesting you brought it up because I get it. I get the point of the tactic. Trust me, I do. But it looks a bit silly when our most famous police officer is on the road on one side of the highway, stops his vehicle, runs across the other side of the highway to stop a taxi van just to give him a ticket. Now, you stop on the highway, you leave your vehicle there on a corner to hinder not only to hinder the traffic, but to give the traffic sort of a blind eye around the corner, to run across.
Wow.
Get this, run across the street to give this man a ticket, who also cannot pull on the side, so will also hinder traffic on both lanes.
Right.
It looks a bit ridiculous at times. I get it. He's trying to do his job. He's trying to be the best at his job. I'm sure he has all the pretty stickers on his book and his backpack, but it just looks ridiculous.
Right. So my question would be, coming off of what Robbie's statement is, do you think you have enough officers in that department, in traffic and patrolling the streets on their feet? And, do you feel that that department has what it needs for you to accomplish your goal?
Probably not. If I'm honest, probably our traffic team does need a boost, and I think as we do recruit more officers in, that will certainly be one of the areas that we're going to have to think about. And look, what you've described there, I agree with you. That sounds ridiculous,
Right.
and I wouldn't want to endorse that. But by the same token, I don't want any of my officers' enthusiasm for making our roads safer to be tarnished by over criticising them for their tactics. But if their tactics are unnecessary tactics, if you can achieve the same result by doing it a different way, then we've got to learn from that. And as I said earlier, the police service don't always get it right by far, and we're not perfect. I'd love to think we were, but we're not perfect. And we'll learn from the feedback. We do listen, and I've maintained time and again to my officers, we have to be a learning organisation, not a blame organisation.
Okay.
So if we make mistakes, we've got to learn from those mistakes.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And, we're getting ready to wrap it up in a couple of minutes, Commissioner. The Cadet Corps,
Yeah.
would that be something that you think would be reinstated, or what's the position on that?
I think the sad thing is it seems to have run out of a substantial drive at the moment. I know a couple of my officers have been heavily involved with it in the past. Indeed, I'm on the Cadet Corps board. I would love to see a real injection of energy into the Cadet Corps. I think there is a place for it here in the BVI, and I think there is still a lot of hard work going on to keep it going, but it needs greater support. And I appeal to anyone out there who wants to give a hand to get it back on its feet, as I said at the beginning, we're all trying to get back on our feet. Cadet Corps will be no different. It needs an injection of cash, it needs support, maybe some sponsorship.
Okay.
But I think it'd be a great thing for the young people to know that this could be something that we could grow again and become what it once was.
Right, because that would be touching the kids from a young age in terms
Absolutely.
of getting the mindset.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just the discipline. That's the number one thing is
Discipline,
and
role models.
Role models.
Yeah.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it to always have been a great program, especially with putting kids who are always in the wrong direction in the right direction.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So-
Well, we hope that, persons listening out there see the urgency and the need, and maybe you'll get some calls with persons saying, hey, I want to join in and, bring back the Cadet Corps, so let's pray for that.
Well, I will certainly be making noises through whatever way I can, and I've been through the governor's office trying to work with the governor to work out what other areas we can fund from external funding to the territory, and maybe the Cadet Corps is an area we ought to look at.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're almost there, but before we wind up, tell us, what would you like your legacy to be?
Goodness me.
The day comes that, your it's time for you to leave the BVI.
Yeah.
What would you like to leave behind as part of your legacy?
I've always maintained that whenever you come and take over a large public service organisation, what you should endeavour to do is make sure that what you received, you should then make sure it's better when you hand it over to the next commissioner. So my endeavour is always about making sure the next commissioner that comes along gets something better than what I had, and then they build on it from there. If by the time I finish as Commissioner, the place is considered to be safer, if people feel reassured by policing, if it is a better service that is provided, then I think I'll achieve something. I've got to tell you, the hurricanes put us back a long way. We were on a journey. Yeah. The hurricanes have put us back a long way, and I certainly won't achieve all that I would love to achieve in the time I'm here, but we'll certainly do our best.
Well
thank
said. You.
Well said.
Well said. And we're about to leave the set. We're going to miss having you here because it was such lovely.
I'll come again.
But
it was a great show.
I was going to say, I'm quite sure we'll get a lot of questions that out of this conversation. So we'll have you back again.
Well, I'm following you on Twitter, PulseVI, so I will watch to see what the reactions are on the questions that may be raised.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully a couple of months we could just get an update from you.
For sure.
Have you in.
Be delighted to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe after the summer, after the festival. Yeah, it seems like a good time.
Sounds great.
In the fourth quarter.
Guys, time is almost here.
Yeah,
we're just going to ask you to keep following us on Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook page, YouTube. And also, we want to give a shout out to Kilatoma for our awesome song, our jingle.
Our intro or outro.
It's awesome. So keep supporting the movement. And again, Commissioner Matthews, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know it's quite busy to be here with us today and let the public know what's going on in the force.
And
in the service.
In the service. Because I'm going to sign something. They're going to get a petition going. The Royal Virgin Islands Police Service, because it sounds great.
It sounds great.
It sounds a lot better than force.
Name.
And I agree with you in terms of how people may see the word force. Anyway, thank you for having us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caribbean Superstation 90.9 FM. This is the Wolfpack Entertainment. Shout out to Dante. Shout out to Kevon. Shout out to Tilatuma. Shout out to Binter, who's probably listening all the way in the UK.
Yes, the whole support team.
The whole support team.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. You're listening to Pulse VI, Caribbean Superstation 90.9 FM.
We're out.
We're out.
We be the heart of the VI. Feel the pulse and you will see why. Where I from, we do it B.I.G. On each other we could rely. Feel the pulse of the VI. Listen close and you will see why. The information will set you free. Stand together, never divide. Pulse VI.